Now from here, all I want you to think of in this particular case is we're going to make the same action. It's going to be here, this sort of pull back, and we're just going to run it straight down. We're just going to allow the technique just to push through with gerambarai. So as you make this, I want it all to be about not the covering arm, but rather the blocking arm. So all you do is just load it in, see how my hips naturally are going to center, they're going to move this hip, my blocking arm hand, my left hand is going to move naturally centered, and then I just fire it down. Right, so it's a very, very natural sort of action. So just think about just this arm, feel the elbow and the hip working together to make the block. So they literally just follow each other down. Does that make sense? So it's just basically, all my hip does is just open, click, just like so. And it follows that and does it in time with the elbow. Does that make sense? So, try it. We're going to move really fluidly. Okay, so from here, just feel this nice relaxed action of here, body, hip, just touch your shoulder and push forward. Just like that. And it's a very relaxed, natural movement. Right, so literally don't worry so much about this hand covering, just make natural action. Oh look, there's my shoulder, pat it, and then just push down. Does that make sense? This is one action you can use for gerambarai. Again, what I'm using here is I'm not really, my front arm will come forward just because I'm doing it, but just feel this kind of relaxed action, bring the hip into it, oh look, and then just push forward. Ready? So we're going to do it on the third. So from here, 1, 2, 3. Try again. So again, loose, relaxed, smooth. That's what you're after here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right, your turn. Ready? Well, you guys are still going. I just want to watch you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So in the 2 that you've got to warm up with, use your body action. Don't stand here like this. I will remain still. 1, 2, 3. Not this. Allow the hip just to move with the elbow. 2, 3. Does that make sense? Allow your hip naturally to move with the elbow. Almost like there's a string, right? Connected to my hip. Connected to my body. 1, oh look, it pulls it. 2, oh it pulls it. 3, oh, now it pulls it. Does that make sense? You want that feeling there, yeah? Hey, let's try again. Relax, relax, smooth. 1, 2, 3. Good. Try the other side. 1, 2, 3. Notice it's in the hip action. Notice the action of the hip is important here, right? As it drops down, but it's just a straight drive in. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Try again. 1, 2, 3. Good. Other side. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Right, and you could do similar sorts of actions. You know, Agyuke would be sort of here. 1, 2, 3. Notice how the driving hip moves with the technique. Sotuke would be the same way, right? From here, sort of 1, 1, 1, 2. Right, Uchuke, same as gerambarai. 1, 2. I don't know, you'll have to ask Mummy. Go ask Mummy because I'm teaching right now, yeah? Right, you ready? So you can use this the same sort of principle here of arm following body, even whether it's a reverse or a direct hip action, yeah? As you go, feel just 1, or it might be here 1, right, as you go. Again, that rear hand isn't important. It's going the opposite way to this hand, and the hip is in action already. The hip is already in action. So don't make it 1 and 2. Make it rather push the hip. This is going to make the block on the end. Push the hip backwards. Force this hip forward. 1, 2, 3. You see what I mean? So it's a very natural action. Whichever elbow is going to go forward, just push that forward. Push it forward with the block. And don't really allow as it goes sort of 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the idea. Does that make sense? So I'll let you expand into the other blocks, but it's about getting the hip into that direct action of the arm straight off the bat. Does that make sense? That's what I'm after here, right? And that's the same principle that we did here, where it's up, then same action, right? That same action. This is the same feeling. Down. Everyone clear? Let's try just 2 or 3 more either side just to goof with it. Pat's having trouble with his coordination, his hip and body coordination, which is awesome to watch from my point of view, but the rest of you don't get to laugh at him. Lucky Pat. Okay, ready? So just 1, 2, 3. Other arm. 1, 2, 3. Right? So what I'm doing is here, it's kind of control, control. I just allow it to finish. You see what I mean? And I just, within this one action, the block happens. You see what I mean? See what I'm getting at? So what it does, it gives you this one hip action to complete whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing, the hip's already going and the body has to catch up. Does that make sense? That's the point. So let's try that now with the other blocks. Just, I said I may as well do it. So from here, just think, this time, try without the practicing. Try and just drive your hip forward and in and make whatever block you need. Does that make sense? Ready? Get ambrai. Itch. So don't worry about the reverse hand. Just worry about working with this one. Opposite side, knee. Good. Opposite side, sun. Opposite side, sheep. Opposite side, go. Opposite side, oak. Opposite side, sheesh. Opposite side, hutch. Opposite side, cute. Opposite side, chip. Good. And relax. So this kind of action is important when the person's far away. Right, when they've got some distance to you and you're really rushing in to meet them, you've got to cover that distance. And the way that you do that is you just drive your hip into them as they actually step, yeah? So as you make that movement, feel this drive, feel this push. Push in and feel this hand, which is the business end hand, just drive and connect. Does that make sense? That's what you're after. Now, do you want to try the second version? So that's this. Boom. That's this feeling. Single action. Here, push. Here, push. Let's do the other. Twist. Push. So for that, what we're going to do here is now what's going to be important is you're going to do exactly the opposite. And I just saw Pat's brain explode. What you're going to do this time is it's going to be 1. And you're going to reach with this hand while the other hand comes up. So the important hand now is now the covering hand. Right? So what you're going to do is the elbow and hip are going to be connected this way. The opposite hand comes up. So it's going to be 1, 2, then 3. See how it's a slightly different hip action. What you've got now is you've got this twitch of the hip forward and then it wobbles out. So it's this double hip. Sort of boom-pa, in, pom-pa, versus the other one that was just forward, right? Both are equally correct, but what I'm doing now is I'm emphasizing now the covering hand. It's 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? So let's try it. Let's do it 2, and then on the third make the block. So 1, reach, 2, reach, 3. Push. Good. Now the other side. Blah. This one's going to push. 1, push. 2, push. 3. Good. And up. Now from here, opposite side. This one's going to push. Each, knee, sun. Good. Now this side's going to push. Each, knee, sun. Good. Again, this hand, each, knee, sun. Good, and push. And so Mike, as you go through yours, don't be so regimented. Don't be so, I am a robot doing karate. Just let it relax. Just let it relax. This is about hip movement and flow of hip action. Just allow boom, 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 there. Right, the arms are just spaghetti. Right, so let's try right hand, reaching, right hand's the cover. H, knee, sun. Left hand's the cover, H, knee, sun. Good, left hand, right hand, H, knee, sun. Left hand, H, knee, sun. Very good, and relax. So this is the two. And so what you find is that there's two ways to effectively make gerambarai, right? The way that we've done it today. One of them is just straight, just sinking down. The other way is using and making use of this covering hand, using it forcefully for a double hip action as you move into the technique. And you see both have reasons why you might want to do them, depending on which arm is the main action arm. Right? When I just drive my hip forward, it's simply this arm. This is the one that matters. Yeah, this is playing a role, but it's really ancillary. And this one is really about this arm doing something, whether it's covering, moving, making your body right, and then you hit and drive in, right? But you're playing more action. And then, of course, you can do a balanced version, which is what you learn initially, where it doesn't move. It's equal across both arms. So what you can do is you can overemphasize one arm versus the other, is what I'm getting at, within our basic blocks. You can make this the main arm by simply driving the forward hip forward. You can make this one the action arm at the beginning by simply driving the hip forward. Or you can have them both engaged to drive. You see what I mean? So you can do what you've done normally and drive one hip more than the other depending on what you want. Does that make sense? So we can bring that right down to different ways of doing hand shot arm. So let's do that quickly now. So what you're going to do is, let's do it first of all, typical ISKF Okazaki way, which is the way I do it 99% of the time. The way that happens is that your primary focus is on this hip and this arm, the blocking arm. You simply block down. You make the next punch, this elbow, this hip, come round together. Then it's up, push, as you make the drive, this hip and this arm, right? It's all very just linear elbow moving with the hip, with the body, yeah? So let's go through it that way, and then I'm going to give you the opposite way to do it for the way that we're doing, which is not what you're used to, but it's another way that you can train the kata to develop these kinds of hip actions, right? These are development tools. Right, within this you do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 sort of repetitions of these hips, right? That's why we do the kata. So let's do it linearly first. So elbow, body moves together. The elbow and hip, the hip just drops, the elbow moves and opens, right? The same as here, this feeling. Ready? Ich, knee. Now body just turns with it. Sun, elbow hip together. Shi, go, step. Look, elbow, body, hip. Forward and in. Ich, straight up. Knee, sun. Good. Now from here, rotating. Feel elbow, body, hip, just watching me. Elbow, hip, body, around. It just sinks and opens. There's no mucking about. Ich, knee, step. Same here, sun, round. Shi, step. Go, look. Shich, hutch. Now from here, of course, all together. Ich, knee, sun, shi. Good, and up. So that's how you're used to it probably if you trained with me in the past. This is how I do the kata 90% of the time. However, let's do it the other way. Let's do it now with our opposite hip being the one that's focusing in. So what you're going to do for each one of these is, and you can emphasize it as much as in your ability to do, okay? So it might vary for some of you. You might just be able to go square. Some of you might go all the way to gyaku hamai. I don't care. It's your training tool, yeah? But this time, what I'm going to do is my first movement is not necessarily here and just getting down. From here now, I'm going to turn. And then I'm going to block out. So it's going to be this action of sort of here, using that double hip action. You see what I mean? Now notice with Mike, I just want to pick out what he did. He was already down in stance here and then made the block. You don't want to do that. Don't slap me, Mike. It's okay, tomorrow. Right? But you don't want to do that, and this is why. You still want your body center moving with the drive of the technique. So make your load here, here, and then push the whole thing forward. Does that make sense? Don't make it sort of here and then push, because there's nothing really left to go. Rather make the turn and push. Then step through, then make the turn and push. It's going to take longer, right? You're doing a bigger action with the hip. You'll bring your hip all the way around, then unwinding it each time. So of course it's going to be slower. It's moving further. But the point is this is not slower. This is the end point. This is a separate technique, which now then you open in. Does that make sense? So don't judge yourself too harshly on when you get to this point. Judge yourself harshly on when you get to the screwed up this point. Does that make sense? That should be quick. And then make the push. Right, let's try it, because it's kind of odd. It's a different way to do it. So from here, ready? Ich, knee, step, sun, round, and open. Good, now on this, not just over with the shoulder, now turn the hip, and then push it down. Good, step through, sheep. Now from here, not just clomp, rather push, squeeze, squeeze and push. Good, now Agyukai is normal. Ich, knee, sun. Good, now on the turn. As you turn, not just round and out. Turn all the way, then open. Right? Ich, turn, and then open. She, push. Turn all the way, then open. Go. Hook. Shich, turn all the way and open. Good, now hutch. Chew. Chew. Good, Shituke same. Each turn all the way, then open. Hutch, turn all the way, then open. Q, turn all the way and open. Chew, turn all the way and open. Yum man. Okay, so I only have about 50 minutes, right, within the class. There's some other stuff I want to do with you. But you get the idea, right? You can see how now what we can do is we can start to experiment with our basic technique in terms of just here, down, or here, do's and go. This is how you can start to add that little bit of bite one side versus the other. You're starting to learn to control both sides of your body together but apart. If you can control those kinds of hip actions, that's where it starts. Does that make sense? And so having that fine control can be useful. And you'll see as you look across senior instructors, some of them will do the first way we did hand shonan. Some of them will do the second way, right? And it just depends which one they think is more important at the time.